The night everything changed, William Hartley held a small glass bottle up to the light. Inside, a golden liquid sparkled like tiny stars were dancing in it. He smiled. This was it. The drink that would make him even richer than he already was. A special formula that would give people extra energy, make them feel stronger, help them think faster. Just one more test, he whispered to himself in his private laboratory. Just one more, and then the world will want to buy millions of these. But William didn't know that his 4-year-old son, Ethan, had woken up from a bad dream. He didn't know that little Ethan had wandered down the cold marble hallways, looking for his daddy. He didn't know that Ethan had pushed open the laboratory door, saw the pretty golden bottle on the low table, and thought it was apple juice. By the time William turned around, Ethan had already drunk half the bottle. Ethan, no. But it was too late. The little boy's eyes went wide, then wider. Then he screamed a scream that would haunt William Hartley for the rest of his life. Ethan's small hands flew to his face, covering his eyes as he felt the floor, crying and crying and crying. The doctors came fast. Ambulances with loud sirens. Hospital rooms with bright lights that Ethan couldn't see anymore. The chemicals in William's prototype drink had damaged the nerves behind Ethan's eyes. The doctors used big words like optical nerve damage and potentially permanent. But William only heard one word, blind. His son was blind, and it was all his fault. For years passed like a long, cold winter that never ended. William Hartley closed his laboratory. He locked the door and threw away the key. He stopped inventing things. He stopped smiling. He walked through his enormous mansion like a ghost, and his house felt more like a museum than a home. Everything was quiet, too quiet, like the whole building was holding its breath. The mansion had 47 rooms, but William kept Ethan in only a few of them. He was terrified something else might hurt his son. The floors were always perfectly clean so Ethan wouldn't trip. The corners of every table were covered with soft padding. There were no stairs Ethan could climb, no doors he could wander through alone. 8-year-old Ethan had learned to walk with a special white cane that tapped the ground in front of him. Tap, tap, tap. That sound became the rhythm of his life. He knew his bedroom by counting steps. 12 steps from his bed to the door, 8 steps to the bathroom, 15 steps to the window he couldn't look out of. But the saddest part? Ethan had almost no friends. William was too scared. What if other children ran too fast and knocked Ethan down? What if they played too rough? What if? So Ethan spent his days alone, listening to the wind, touching the smooth walls, wondering what colors looked like. He remembered colors, just barely. He remembered that the sky was blue, that grass was green, that his mother's hair had been brown before she left him 2 years ago. She couldn't handle the guilt, couldn't handle watching her son struggle, so she moved far away and never called. Now it was just Ethan and his father, living in a mansion that felt more like a prison made of marble and gilt. Then, on a spring morning when the birds were singing louder than usual, everything began to change. Ethan was sitting in the garden, one of the only places William let him go. He liked the garden because he could feel the warm sun on his face and smell the roses his father's gardeners planted. He was running his fingers through the soft grass when he heard a voice he'd never heard before. "Hi, what are you doing?" Ethan's head turned toward the sound. It was a girl's voice, bright and cheerful like bells ringing. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, his heart beating faster. He wasn't used to talking to other children. "I'm Amira. My mama just started working here in the kitchen. She cleans the big pots and helps cook the food. I came with her today because I don't have school." "What's your name?" "Ethan," he said quietly. Then, even quieter, "I can't see you." "Oh," Amira said, but she didn't sound scared or sad. She just sounded curious. "That's okay. I can see you, and I can tell you what things look like if you want." Ethan felt something strange in his chest. Something warm and exciting. When was the last time someone talked to him like this? Like he was just a regular boy? What do you look like?" Ethan asked. Amira laughed. "Well, I have brown skin that my grandma says looks like honey. I have black hair and 2 braids that go down to here. Oh, you can't see me pointing. Down to my shoulders. And I'm wearing an orange dress today because orange is my favorite color. Orange, Ethan whispered. He tried to remember orange. Like fire? Like fire, but softer. Like a sunset or a yummy orange fruit or a butterfly I saw yesterday. For the next hour, they talked and talked. Amira described everything she saw. The white clouds that looked like cotton candy. The red roses that smelled sweet. The green leaves that made sounds when the wind blew through them. Ethan told her about his life, about the mansion, about how he spent most of his time alone. That sounds really lonely, Amira said softly. It is, Ethan admitted. No one had ever asked him if he was lonely before. Then Amira did something surprising. She reached into her small backpack and pulled out a bottle. Ethan heard the liquid sloshing inside. Here, I brought juice from home. My grandma makes it. It's orange juice, but special. She puts herbs and roots in it from her garden. She says it's old people's magic that makes you strong and healthy. Want to try some? Ethan reached out carefully, and Amira placed a cup in his hands. He could smell it, sweet and tangy, with something else he couldn't quite name, something earthy and alive. But before he could drink it, a loud voice boomed across the garden. Ethan, get away from that. It was William Hartley, running toward them with fear burning in his eyes. Fear and something else. Something that looked like he was seeing a ghost. Because the last time his son had drunk something strange, everything had gone horribly, terribly wrong. And this girl, this poor girl from the kitchen, was holding another bottle, another mysterious liquid. William's hands were shaking as he snatched the cup away from Ethan. You! He pointed at Amira, his voice cold and hard. You need to leave. Now. And never come near my son again. Amira's eyes filled with tears, but she grabbed her bottle and ran. Ethan sat frozen on the grass, the warm sun suddenly feeling cold. He had finally found a friend. And just like that, she was gone. But what William didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that Amira's orange liquid carried something powerful inside it. Something that science couldn't explain, but that grandmothers had known for hundreds of years. And Amira wasn't the kind of girl who gave up easily. She would come back. And when she did, everything would change forever. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay in his big bed in his big room in his big mansion, and all he could think about was Amira's voice. The way she laughed. The way she described the world like it was full of magic and wonder, not danger and darkness. For the first time in 4 years, Ethan had felt like a normal kid, and his father had taken that away. Down the hall, William Hartley couldn't sleep either. He sat in his office, his head in his hands, remembering the terrible moment he'd seen that girl holding a bottle near his son. His heart had stopped. All he could see was that night 4 years ago, the golden liquid. Ethan's screams, the hospital, the endless guilt. I'm protecting him, William whispered to himself. I'm keeping him safe. But deep down, a small voice asked, or are you keeping him alone? 3 days passed. Ethan barely ate. He barely talked. He just sat by his window, listening to the sounds of the garden, hoping to hear that bright, cheerful voice again. Then, on the 4th morning, he heard it. Psst, Ethan. His heart jumped. Amira? Yes. I'm by the big oak tree near the garden wall. Can you come? I know the way is safe. There's a stone path the whole way. Ethan's hands trembled with excitement and fear. His father had forbidden him to talk to Amira, but his father was in a meeting in the east wing of the mansion, and Ethan was so tired of being alone. He grabbed his white cane and counted his steps carefully. 12 to the door, 20 down the hallway, 35 to the garden door, 40 more across the stone path, tapping carefully until he felt the rough bark of the oak tree under his hand. You came. Amira's voice was full of joy. I'm not supposed to be here, Ethan said. My father will be so angry. Why doesn't he want us to be friends? Amira asked, sitting down beside him. Ethan could hear her dress rustling as she moved. So Ethan told her everything. About the laboratory, about the golden liquid, about the accident that took his sight away, about his father's guilt that grew bigger every day like a dark cloud that covered their whole house. When he finished, Amira was quiet for a long moment. Your father is scared, she finally said. My mama told me that when people are really scared, they sometimes make bad choices. They think they're protecting the people they love, but really they're just building walls. What do you mean? Ethan asked. Your father built walls around you. Big, tall walls so nothing bad can reach you. But walls also keep good things out, like friendship, like sunshine, like living. Ethan had never thought about it that way before. But Amira was right. His whole life was walls, walls of rules, walls of fear, walls of loneliness. I don't want to live in walls anymore, Ethan whispered. Then don't, Amira said simply. We can meet here every day. This can be our secret place. I'll tell you stories about the world, and you can tell me about all the things you hear and feel and smell. Deal. Deal, Ethan said, and smiled the biggest smile he'd smiled in years. And so, every morning for the next 2 weeks, they met by the oak tree. Amira brought books and read them out loud, doing funny voices for all the characters. She brought flowers and let Ethan touch their petals, teaching him how roses felt different from daisies, how tulips were smooth and lilies were soft. She told him about her life, too, about living in a small apartment with her mother and grandmother, about how they didn't have much money, but they had lots of love and laughter. She told him about her dream of becoming a scientist one day, someone who could create medicines that help people instead of hurting them. Like my grandmother's special drinks, Amira said. She knows which plants can help with headaches, which roots can make your stomach feel better, which herbs can make you strong. It's like magic, but it's really science. Old science that people have known for hundreds and hundreds of years. Every time she mentioned her grandmother's drinks, Ethan felt curious. What was in that orange liquid? Why had his father been so terrified of it? But he was too afraid to ask her to bring it again. Then came the day William Hartley discovered their secret. He had been walking through the garden, looking for Ethan, when he heard laughter. Real, genuine laughter. A sound he hadn't heard from his son in so long. He followed the sound to the oak tree and stopped, hidden behind a hedge. There was Ethan, sitting in the grass, his face turned toward the sun, laughing at something that girl, was saying. Fire exploded in William's chest. Not just anger. Terror. That girl was back. Near his son, after he'd forbidden it. He stormed forward. Ethan Hartley. Both children jumped. Amira scrambled to her feet, her eyes wide with fear. I told you to stay away from my son. William shouted at Amira. Then he turned to Ethan. And you directly disobeyed me. Do you have any idea how dangerous this is? Dangerous? Ethan's voice was shaking, but there was something else in it too. Something William had never heard before. Anger. How is having a friend dangerous, father? How is being happy dangerous? You don't understand. No, you don't understand. Ethan stood up, and even though he couldn't see his father, he pointed his face directly at him like he could sense exactly where William was standing. I've been alone for 4 years. 4 years of sitting in my room, counting steps, touching walls, hearing nothing but silence. And the one time, I find someone who makes me feel like a real person again, you take her away. Tears were streaming down Ethan's face. William had never seen his son cry like this. Not since the accident. Ethan, please. I forgive you for what happened to my eyes, Ethan said, his voice breaking. It was an accident, but I will never forgive you for making me live like a prisoner. William stood frozen, his son's words hitting him like punches to the chest. Amira stepped forward, her voice small but brave. Mr. Hartley, sir, I would never hurt Ethan. I just wanted to be his friend. My mama says friendship is medicine too. It heals the parts of people that doctors can't reach. William looked at the small girl with her braids and her orange dress and her eyes full of tears, but also full of courage, and something cracked inside his chest. The wall he'd built around his heart, the wall made of guilt and fear, started to crumble. But before he could speak, Amira did something that would change everything. She reached into her bag and pulled out a bottle, the same bottle from 2 weeks ago. The orange liquid inside glowed in the sunlight like liquid fire. This is what scared you, isn't it? She asked. That day in the garden. You saw this bottle, and you got so scared. William's face went pale. Get that away from him. Now. Why? What do you think it is? Poison. Amira's voice was sad. It's not poison, Mr. Hartley. It's just juice. Orange juice with herbs from my grandmother's garden. Turmeric for healing, ginger for strength, ashwagandha for the nerves, and honey from bees who eat flowers that grow in clean soil. My grandmother has been making this drink for 60 years. She gave it to me when I was sick, to my mother when she was tired, to our neighbors when they needed help. It's not magic. It's just love in a bottle. I don't care what it is, William said, his voice hard. My son will not drink anything I haven't tested. Do you understand? Not after what happened. Never again. He grabbed Ethan's arm. Come, we're going inside. And you, he pointed at Amira, if I see you near my son again, I'll have your mother fired. She'll lose her job. Do you understand me? Amira's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. As William pulled Ethan away, the boy was sobbing. Please, Father, please. Don't take her away. Please. But William didn't listen. He couldn't listen. All he could see was danger, danger, danger. That night, Ethan refused to eat dinner. He refused to talk. He just lay in his bed, his face turned toward the wall, his heart broken into 1,000 pieces. And in the kitchen, Amira's mother held her daughter while she cried. I just wanted to help him, Mama. I just wanted him to have a friend. And maybe if he drank Grandma's special juice, it could help his eyes. Grandma said that sometimes, when nerves are hurt but not completely broken, the right herbs can wake them up again, like giving them a gentle push to remember how to work. Her mother stroked her hair. I know, sweetheart, but Mr. Hartley is scared. And scared people sometimes hurt the ones trying to help them. But Amira wasn't ready to give up. The next morning, she snuck into the mansion before dawn. She knew which window was Ethan's. He described it to her during one of their meetings. She crept through the garden, climbed the trellis covered in ivy, and tapped gently on his window. Ethan heard the tapping. His heart jumped. He pushed open the window. Amira, I can't stay, she whispered. Your father will wake up soon, but I wanted to give you this. She pressed a bottle into his hands. I know your father is scared. I know he thinks it's dangerous. But Ethan, I promise you, this drink is safe. My grandmother has given it to hundreds of people. It's helped them all. And I really think it might help you too. Help me how? Ethan asked, his hands wrapped around the warm bottle. Your eyes. What if they could heal even just a little? What if you could see shadows or light again? What if... That's impossible, Ethan whispered, but his heart was beating so fast. Maybe, Amira said, but maybe isn't the same as no. Will you try? Please? For me. Ethan stood at his window, holding the bottle. Inside, he could feel the liquid moving warm and alive. He thought about his father's fear. He thought about the accident. He thought about 4 years of darkness. But he also thought about Amira's voice, her kindness, her courage. And he thought, what if she's right? Okay, he whispered. I'll try it. Really? Amira sounded so happy. Really? But Amira, if this works, if something happens, my father might get even angrier at you. I don't care, Amira said firmly. Some things are worth being brave for. You're worth being brave for. Then she squeezed his hand quickly and climbed back down the trellis before anyone could see her. Ethan stood alone in his dark room, holding the bottle of orange liquid that glowed even though he couldn't see it glowing. His hands shook as he twisted off the cap. The smell hit him first. Sweet oranges, earthy herbs, something warm and alive and full of hope. He lifted the bottle to his lips. He thought about his father. He thought about the accident. He thought about all the fear that had ruled his life for 4 years. Then he thought about Amira's words. Maybe isn't the same as no. And Ethan drank. The liquid was sweet and tangy and warm going down his throat. It tasted like sunshine would taste if sunshine had a flavor. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Ethan felt something strange. A tingling behind his eyes. A warmth spreading through his head. A sensation he hadn't felt in 4 years, like something sleeping was starting to wake up. His hands flew to his face. His heart pounded. And in that moment, Ethan saw something he never thought he'd see again. Light. Just a tiny, tiny bit of light. Ethan stood frozen in his bedroom, his hands pressed against his eyes, barely breathing. Light. He could see light. Not clearly, not perfectly. But there, right there, was a soft glow where his window was. He could tell the difference between the darkness of his room and the lighter space where morning sun was starting to come through the glass. I can see light, he whispered to himself. I can see something. His whole body was shaking. Was it real? Was he imagining it? He turned his head away from the window. Darkness. He turned back toward it. Light. Away. Darkness. Toward. Light. It was real. For the first time in 4 years, Ethan could tell the difference between dark and light. He wanted to scream with joy. He wanted to run and tell his father. But fear stopped him. His father would know he'd drunk Amira's juice. His father would be so angry. Amira's mother might lose her job. So Ethan kept the secret, holding it inside his chest like a precious treasure. Over the next 3 days, something impossible continued to happen. The light got a little brighter. Then Ethan started seeing shadows, dark shapes moving against lighter backgrounds. He could tell when someone walked into his room before they spoke. He could see the shadow of his hand when he held it up in front of his face. On the 4th day, he saw his first color. It was orange. He was sitting by his window when it happened. His father had hung an orange curtain there years ago. Ethan's mother had chosen it before she left. Ethan had forgotten the curtain was even there. But suddenly he could see it. Not perfectly, not clearly, but there was definitely, absolutely, unmistakably a warm, glowing orange color hanging in front of him. Orange. Like Amira's dress. Like her special drink. Like hope. Tears streamed down Ethan's face. That afternoon, William walked into Ethan's room and froze. His son was standing by the window, reaching out to touch the curtain, and there was something different about the way he moved. Something about the way his head tilted. Something about the way his eyes. Ethan? William's voice came out as a whisper. What are you doing? Ethan turned, and for the first time in 4 years, his eyes moved toward his father's face. Not perfectly, not exactly, but close enough that William's heart stopped. Father, Ethan said slowly, I need to tell you something, and you're going to be angry, but I need you to listen. Really listen. Can you do that? William nodded, unable to speak. For days ago, Amira gave me her grandmother's drink, the orange one. I drank it, and Father, I can see again. Not everything, not perfectly, but I can see light. I can see shadows. I can see... His voice broke with emotion. I can see colors. Father, I can see orange. The room went completely silent. William's face went through so many emotions, shock, fear, confusion, anger, hope, disbelief, that Ethan could almost see them changing even through his still blurry vision. That's impossible, William finally whispered. Come here, Ethan said. Stand in front of the window. William walked over, his legs feeling weak. He stood in front of the bright window. I can see your shadow, Ethan said, his voice full of wonder. You're tall. You're standing very still. Now you're raising your hand. Now you're waving it. William was waving his hand, tears streaming down his face. Oh, my God, he breathed. Oh, my God, Ethan. How is this possible? Amira said her grandmother's drink has special herbs, things that help nerves heal. She said that sometimes, when nerves are hurt but not completely dead, they just need help waking up, like they're sleeping and need someone to shake them gently and say, wake up, you can work again. William collapsed into the chair beside his son's bed. His whole body was shaking. For 4 years, he lived with guilt so heavy it crushed him. He believed his son would never see again. He'd built walls to protect Ethan from any more pain. And a little girl with an orange dress and a bottle of juice had done what all his money and all his guilt and all his protection never could. She'd given his son hope and healing. I owe her an apology, William said quietly. I owe her more than an apology. Yes, Ethan said firmly. You do. That evening, William Hartley did something he never did. He went to the kitchen, the place where servants worked, where he never went, and found Amira's mother scrubbing a large pot. "Mrs. Torres," he said quietly. She jumped, almost dropping the pot. "Mr. Hartley, I'm sorry, I was just finishing." "No." William held up his hand. "I'm not here to criticize your work. I'm here to apologize. Is your daughter here?" Mrs. Torres looked confused, but nodded. "She's in the garden. I told her to wait there while I finish." William found Amira sitting under the oak tree, the same tree where she and Ethan had become friends. When she saw him, she scrambled to her feet, fear in her eyes. "Please don't fire my mama," she said immediately. "I know I wasn't supposed to give Ethan the juice. I know you're angry. But please, my mama needs this job. Punish me, not her." William knelt down, so he was at eye level with this brave little girl. "Amira," he said gently, "I'm not going to fire your mother. I'm here to say I'm sorry, and to say thank you." Amira's eyes went wide. "Thank you? For what?" "For giving my son something I couldn't give him. Hope, friendship, and somehow, impossibly, the beginning of his sight back. He can see light now, and shadows, and colors, because of your grandmother's drink. Because you were brave enough to help him even when I told you to stay away." Tears filled Amira's eyes. "He can see? Really? Come and see for yourself." William led Amira inside the mansion. When they reached Ethan's room, the boy was standing by the window, waiting. "Amira," he called out, turning toward her voice. "I'm here," she said, running to him. "I can see your shadow," Ethan said, his voice full of joy. "You're shorter than my father. You're wearing orange again. Always orange." Amira laughed, and both children were crying and laughing at the same time. William watched them, and for the first time in 4 years, the crushing weight of guilt began to lift from his shoulders. But their story didn't end there. The next morning, William made a phone call that would change everything. He called a press conference. Reporters came from everywhere, their cameras flashing, their questions flying. "Mr. Hartley, is it true your son can see again? What miracle treatment did you use? Did you develop a new medicine?" William held up his hand for silence. Beside him stood Ethan, holding tightly to Amira's hand. "For years ago," William began, his voice steady, "I made a terrible mistake. I created a drink in my laboratory without properly testing it. My son drank it by accident and he lost his sight. I thought I'd destroyed his life forever. I thought the only thing I could do was protect him from any more harm. So I built walls. I kept him isolated. I kept him away from anything that might hurt him." He paused, looking at Amira. "But in doing that, I kept him away from the very thing he needed most. Friendship, hope, and yes, healing. This young girl, Amira Torres, brought my son a simple drink made by her grandmother, a blend of herbs and roots that had been used for healing for hundreds of years. I was terrified of it. I forbade my son from drinking it. But Amira was braver than I was. And because of her courage, my son can see light again. He can see shadows. He can see colors." The reporters exploded with questions, but William kept talking. "I'm here today to tell you that the real miracle isn't in a bottle. The real miracle is in kindness, in friendship, in someone caring enough to help when they have nothing to gain. I was a millionaire, but I couldn't heal my son. Amira's family has very little money, but she had something more valuable. She had compassion. She had knowledge passed down through generations. She had courage." He turned to Amira. "And so today, I'm announcing the creation of the Hartley Torres Foundation for Natural Healing. This foundation will study traditional remedies like the one Amira's grandmother makes. We'll fund research to understand how these ancient herbs work. We'll make sure that safe, natural healing methods are available to everyone, not just the wealthy. And we'll fund Amira's education, from now until she becomes a scientist she dreams of being." Amira gasped. Her mother, standing at the back of the crowd, started crying. "Furthermore," William continued, "I'm apologizing publicly to the Torres family for how I treated them. I let fear and guilt turn me into someone cruel. I'm committing to do better. to be better. The cameras flashed like crazy. The reporters shouted questions. But Ethan just hugged Amira, and for both children, the world was finally becoming bright. Over the next months, something beautiful happened. Ethan's vision continued to improve slowly. He couldn't see perfectly. The damage from the accident was still there, but he could see enough. He could see people's faces, even if they were blurry. He could see trees and flowers and books. He could see his father smile. Most importantly, he could see Amira's face, and she was just as beautiful as he'd imagined. The foundation William created became famous. Scientists studied the herbs in Amira's grandmother's drink and discovered that, yes, the combination of turmeric, ginger, and ashwagandha, along with specific vitamins from plants, could indeed help damaged nerves repair themselves. Not always, not perfectly, but sometimes. Just enough. Just maybe. Amira started attending a special school for young scientists. She studied chemistry and botany and medicine every weekend. She came to the mansion, not as someone sneaking around, but as Ethan's best friend, welcomed through the front door. William closed down his old laboratory. He donated all his dangerous prototypes to be disposed of safely. He opened the mansion's doors and windows, letting light and air and laughter fill the rooms that had been silent for so long. He learned that protecting someone you love doesn't mean building walls around them. It means holding their hand as they explore the world, being there to catch them if they fall, but never stopping them from walking. 1 year after that morning, when Ethan first saw light again, the three of them, William, Ethan, and Amira, stood in the garden under the oak tree. "I brought something," Amira said, pulling out a bottle. But this time, it wasn't her grandmother's drink. It was a new bottle with a fancy label that read, "Torres Hartley Neural Support Formula, researched, tested, safe for all." "The foundation finished testing my grandmother's recipe," Amira explained, her eyes shining. "We made sure it's safe. We figured out exactly how it works. And now we can help other people. People whose nerves are hurt. People who need hope." Ethan took the bottle carefully. Through his still slightly blurry vision, he could see the orange liquid inside, glowing in the sunlight. "It's beautiful," he said. "You know what's beautiful?" William said quietly, "Both of you. This. Second chances. Forgiveness. Trust." He put one arm around his son and one around Amira. "I spent so long being afraid," he said. "Afraid of losing what I loved. But I learned something important. When you hold on too tight, you lose everything anyway. When you let go, when you trust, when you allow people to be brave, that's when miracles happen." Amira smiled. "My grandmother says the same thing. She says that healing comes from mixing the right ingredients, but the most important ingredient is always love." "Your grandmother is a very wise woman," William said. "She wants to meet you," Amira said. "She said any man who can admit his mistakes and change his heart deserves to learn the old ways of healing." "I'd be honored," William said. As they stood there together in the garden, the sun warm on their faces, a reporter who'd been following the story took one last photo. It would become famous. A picture of father, his son, and a little girl with braids, standing together under an oak tree, holding a bottle of orange liquid that glowed like captured sunlight. The photo's caption would read, "When love becomes medicine." That evening, Ethan sat at his window, the same window where he'd first drunk Amira's juice, the same window where he'd first seen light again, and looked out at the world. He could see the stars now, not perfectly, but enough, little points of light in the darkness, reminding him that even in the darkest night, there's always light somewhere. And he thought about everything that had happened, the accident, the darkness, the loneliness, the fear, and then Amira, like sunshine in human form, breaking through his father's walls and his own sadness with nothing but kindness and a bottle of orange juice. "Sometimes," Ethan said quietly to himself, "the cure for darkness isn't found in laboratories or bought with money. Sometimes it's found in friendship, in trust, in someone brave enough to say, 'I can help,' and someone else brave enough to say, 'Okay, I'll let you.'" His father knocked softly on the door and came in. "Ethan, I just want to say good night, and to say, I'm proud of you. You were braver than I was. You trusted when I was afraid. You opened your heart when I close mine. I learned that from a mirror. Ethan said. She taught me that sometimes you have to take chances on people. Sometimes you have to drink the mysterious orange juice, even if you're scared. William laughed, a real, genuine laugh that sounded like music. She taught me that too, he said. Good night, son. I love you. I love you too, Dad. As William left, Ethan looked back out the window at the stars. Tomorrow, Amira was coming over. They were going to work on a science project together, testing different herbs from her grandmother's garden to see which ones might help with other kinds of healing. The foundation was supporting their work. Ethan's sight would help him do things he never could before, and Amira's brilliant mind would help them discover new ways to heal people. But even more than that, they would just be friends. Best friends. The kind of friends who save each other without even trying, just by being kind and brave and true. And somewhere in the kitchen, a bottle of orange liquid sat on the counter, glowing softly in the moonlight. Not magic, not a miracle, just herbs and love mixed together in the right way at the right time. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful medicine in the world is simply refusing to give up on someone, even when everyone else has, even when it seems impossible. Especially then, if this story touched your heart, please like this video to help spread this message of hope and compassion. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that healing can come from the most unexpected places. And subscribe so you never miss another story about the power of kindness, courage, and never giving up on the people we love. Your support helps us create more content that reminds us all. True miracles happen when we choose to see people as they are and love them anyway. Thank you for being part of this community.